Right. Iban. Good evening, Putala.
Good evening.
Right. So today we start our second chapter, right? So we already completed the history of computers. That's done, right? Right. So let's start the second chapter. Let me share the book. So this is a bit of lengthy chapter, Putala, right? There are so many things to study, remember, right? So quite lengthy chapter, and it's sort of related to right. Right. There's a small interruption, Putala. Right. Still says connection unstable. Anyway, we'll see, right? You all can hear me, no? Sasaradua, can you hear me? Hello, Putala, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So don't worry about the interruption. So as soon as I get the good signals, so I'll be back, okay? So in this chapter, Putala, we'll right. So we have to discuss basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main, subtopics, right? So here we are going to discuss about features of a computer. So that's a small, so let me go through the lesson, right? It's like here, features of a computer, right? There are several features. So they are given basically 5 features to, right, to study. And next comes the classification of computers. So we can basically we can divide computers according to the size or maybe according to the technology. So basically they have taken two main they have introduced two main categories. So we'll see how computers are categorized according to this. To see here, right, we are talking about this, right? Input, process, output. That's the architecture of a computer. But here they have introduced few more things, right? Basically in from grade 6, grade 7, 8 also, right? So you all studied this one, right? Input, output, this registries, ALU, control unit, right? They have added bit of complex scenario here, right? So now only you should be able to learn, right, how exactly things are happening, right? Earlier you used to study like input devices, so small diagrams, right? So you just shown the direction of the data flow. That's all, right? Here we have to discuss about in detail. So how the things are happening, right? This is complete architecture of the computer process, right? And here again, they have added this chapter in detail, not like previously, right? So input device, we have to talk about input devices, output devices, imaging devices, scanners, right? Uh, ATM cards, microphones, right? Output devices, LCD technologies, LED technologies, multimedia projectors, and about the printers. So there are a few models, right? Like dot matrix, line printers, impact printers, right? Daisy wheel printers, thermal printers, right? So different purposes, right? We use printers, right? Especially you might have seen in the supermarkets, right? They use thermal printers, right? Uh, and the plotters, so we basically use for CAD drawings, right? So house drawings likewise, right? Sound, speakers and headphones technology, right? So again, uh, we have to discuss about the CPU, right? So how computer memory, about the computer memory. So this is new thing, right? So they have introduced cache memory function. So we'll see, right? So I'm just going through the lesson, right? And the secondary memory and some hardware devices, how hard disk works, right? Uh, what's inside the hard disk, right? So bit of hardware related chapter, right? Magnetic tape, optical media, so about Blu-rays, DVDs, CDs, or what's the difference, what's the technology behind that, right? Uh, and the solid state drives, memory cards, and then comes the computer port, right? So it's a bit of lengthy program, but you can gain very good knowledge. Right? It's overall knowledge you can get after this chapter. Then they talk about the uh, network, data transmission media, right? How data is being transferred between computers, right? So there are some technologies like fiber optic technologies, twisted pair cables, right? Don't worry, right? These are very interesting and these are very simple things, right? So very simply, I will explain these things, right? Uh, routers, firewall, the functions of network interface card, right? Even in grade 6, we discuss about these things, right? In very small scale, but here we need to learn a little bit in detail, right? So type of network, there are some topologies like star topology, bus topology, ring topology, right? Topology means architecture, right? So we can have several architectures like tree topology, mesh topology, right? Benefits of networking, right? Disadvantages of networking. So that's the end of the chapter. So it's a bit of lengthy chapter, right? So slowly we have to study. So don't worry about the rest of the things, right? So first things first, right? So I'll start from the beginning. Okay. So we are here, right? So first today we'll talk about the features, right? So what are the features you know at the moment? So what are the features of computer, right? From very first day, like grade 6. So we are talking about these things, right? What are the things? So you can see in the screen now.
Accuracy,
Yes. So Tasaradu, can you explain what you mean by accuracy and what's the difference between why you are telling computers is so accurate? So can someone explain? You Tasaradu or someone else?
Computer like providing the correct output when the correct data and instructions are given.
Exactly. That's the thing you want to remember, right? So if the data and instructions are correct, right? So it doesn't have any way to think like whether this is correct information or not. Uh, According to the given instructions, it will give you output. So if your input data is wrong, that we can't blame the computer, right? So it will work according to your instructions, right? So you need to make sure to provide very accurate data as input, right? Accurate data and the instructions. Then accurate. Then rest of the things it will take care. No, nothing to worry about that, right? So your computer will take care about the accuracy. So you don't want to worry about that, right? First thing you need to remember, you have to enter exactly correct data, right? And the next one, speed, right? Uh, Speed. So like we were talking about the earlier computers, right? So they started from the vacuum tube. Then they introduced transistors. So afterwards, ICs, integrated circuits, right? Evolution of CPU, right? We were talking about last week. Then comes to the microprocessor, right? So with the improvements of the CPU and the devices, right? The speed of the computer also improved, right? According to the processor speed, right? Processing means it's like it's handling the data, right? According to our instructions. So speed, right? Right. Um, so now we can't imagine how speed it is, right? That much speed. So usually we can't measure that. So million instructions per second. So now those are the words. So millions of the instructions, right? Per second, it can process, right? So we can't actually calculate that is that much speed it is, right? So that's one of the feature of a computer, right? So it says it executes more than 1 million instructions per second, right? Today, more than that, right? So when they introduced microprocessors, the word came million instructions per second. Now, so microprocessor introduced maybe 3-4 decades back, right? Now you can imagine now how speed it is, right? Accuracy you're talking about, the efficiency, right? So computer never get tired unless you provide the computer won't get tired, but there are certain limitations. Can someone explain what are the limitations?
Electricity.
Yes, we need to provide for the electricity. Yes, obviously we need to provide the electricity, but we need to ensure the environment factor, right? Example is your air condition. So maybe we need to provide adequate or not adequate actually, correct. We need to maintain the correct temperature, right? So if the environment temperature gets hot or maybe it exceeds the limitation, right? The computer may start malfunctioning or it might stop functioning, right? It's not about the over temperature, even it won't work when under temperature also. Like Tata Radhum, you might have experienced the minus values, right? So minus temperature levels, right? So most of the electronic devices actually start malfunctioning. So there are a certain range, right? We need to provide that environment. Maybe we need to keep a very clean environment, like dust-free environment, right? And uninterrupted, as our Mutalijo said, we need to provide very good, consistent electricity supply, right? Computer won't get tired, that's true, right? But the temperature is more, right? It might malfunction or it shuts the functionality, right? It can shut to prevent your data, right? So it knows that I can't proceed with this temperature. So to safeguard the equipment, so there's a mechanism to shut the computer, right? There's a actually there is a component to check the temperature of the CPU or the motherboard, right? If it exceeds or it goes below some certain temperature level, so it will send the signal. Now it's very, you are in very dangerous moment, so immediately execute the shutdown command, right? To prevent your computer hardware, other everything, right? So it will shut down. So it's so efficient. We need to make it won't get tired. It's true, right? It can work round the clock until you provide the comfortable zone, right? Basically the environment, temperature, electricity, maybe as I told you, like dust-free environment, right? And certain factors we need to we need to highly consider about the environment of a computer, right? Versatility. Um, computer can perform tasks simultaneously පුතාලා. එකම වෙලාවේ task ගොඩාක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. So one good example, can someone give me an example, right? You can read document while listening to the music, right? So I'm not telling you to do that, right? Even you can listen to the music background, you can put the music, and you can do something else. You can maybe you can create a drawing, right? You can do Excel, or you can do a word processing thing, right? So simultaneously it's happening, right? Earlier computers, Putala, so it can do tasks sequentially, right? It need to, and the first come, need to serve first, then the second one comes, right? It will take sequentially. So multitasking was not enabled at that time, right? Thanks to the technology, now they have enabled. නැත්තම් මොකද වෙන්නේ පුතාලා? ටයිම් එක නතර වෙලා තියෙයි අපේ වැඩේ ඉවර වෙනකල් නේද? එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැනේ කම්පියුටර් එකේ. නේද? එයාට අමතක වෙලා right මම දැන් මේ ලොකු වැඩක හිටියේ, so I need to concentrate on this work, right? එයා කියන්නේ නැහැ නේ ටිකක් වෙලා ගිහලා I forgot to bring the time correctly කියලා පස්සේ time එක හදන්නේ නැහැ නේද? So simultaneously it's happening, right? So here also you can see, so it's transmitting my video, voice, right? It transmits the sharing of the screen, so everything, right? Simultaneously. So it won't come like one by one, neda? අන්න ඒකත් මතක තියාගන්න. So that's called versatility, right? It's a very special feature. Now හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න, right? Time එක කිව්ව එක, right? Otherwise you can remember that example, what's that? Reading a book, referring a website while listening to the music, right? So two things simultaneously, more than two things also, right? Likewise, storing and retrieving, right? You can save data for later use, right? Maybe today you cannot finish, right? So you can save it for, I mean, today, from tomorrow onwards, you want to modify it, right? So likewise, you can keep it for later use. You can retrieve where you stopped yesterday, right? From that point, but you need to make sure that you save the things correctly. Then සමහර අය කියනවා මට save කරන්න බැරි වුණා. So you can't take it back. You can't retrieve, right? So if you don't save correctly, so you have to save it correctly. Then you can retrieve whenever you want, right? So what it says, a computer is used to store large number of data and information. So how computer saves data, Putala? Basically, in which form? මට මොනවාරි save කරන්න ඕන වුණා නම් how can I save? So which forms it saves data? Saves as a දැන් පුතාලා මොනවා හරි document එකක් හදලා save කරොත් මොන විදිහටද ඒක save වෙන්නේ? Saves as a it saves as a file. දැන් මතක් වුණාද? So it's a smallest, the file is a smallest storage entity. So where your data and instructions saved on the computer, right? So anything, any data or information, right? You need to save as a file. So what are the common file types? Tell me some common 2-3 file types. දැන් කියන්න බලන්න file types දෙක තුනක් computer එකේ.
PDF.
Yes. Portable document format, .pdf. What else? There are hundreds, thousands of file types. So how your file format? Let me tell that first, right? So what's the format of a file? File name dot උත්තර දිනක පුතා.
File
JPG.
type.
Sorry?
File type.
Yes. So there's a special name for that. File name dot extension. Any file, right? If you take any file, there's a file name dot and the extension. That's a type of a file, right? So that then only you can identify what type of that file, right? So PDF, maybe so I will tell Tinuka.pdf. So the first name, file name says some information about the files. You can give some meaningful information, right? Meaningful word. So then you can identify what's inside this file. And here comes the file type. So it says this is a PDF file or maybe text file, right? .text, or maybe document file, .doc, right? Maybe Excel file, docx also there, right? There are hundreds of file types, right? So according to the extension, you will come to know, so what's the type of the file, which software we can use to open this file. දැන් මේ extension එක දිහා බලලා නේද මට අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන් how can I open this file කියලා, right? So what's the common your music file? දැන් කියන්න බලන්න කවුරුහරි music file වල extension එක දන්නවනේ.
MP3.
MP3, very good. So what is MP4?
Video.
Video, good. So likewise there are so common extensions you should know, Putala. And maybe we get software lesson later, right? I will tell you, but common things like text, document, Excel, and what's the extension for PowerPoint? Presentation.
PPTX.
PPTX or PPT. This is legacy. a little bit older version, right? So PPTX is the latest version of Microsoft PowerPoint, right? So likewise, the file name and the extension. So you can save your data and information as files. So that's what they're talking about here, right? So the screen. The computer is used to store large number of data and information in a relatively small unit, and we can retrieve them easily and quickly when needed, right? So we need to provide the location, right? So before go to the next thing, so let me share the screen, right? Take one file, right? This is your book, right? So there's a file name, right? Here you can't see the extension, but there's a small icon, right? Red color icon, right? By looking at the icon itself, you can come to know it's a PDF file if you are familiar with the computer files, right? Make a PDF කියලා ආවට ටක් ගාලා කියන්න පුළුවන් by looking at the so where's the extension now? තිනක පුතා, where's the extension? නිතොම්යා තසාරා මුතුලි දසුනි දුව කියන්න බලන්න. So where's the මම කිව්වා file name dot extension කියලා හැම ෆයිල් එකකටම එනවා, it's a common thing කියලා. But here this is a file name ICT grade 10. There's a meaningful information, right? ICT grade 10, E for English and RB for reading book, right? So it's common. Now I can see. So by looking at this, I can say it's a PDF file by looking at this icon, right? And there's a tooltip also. It says Adobe Acrobat document, right? But here you can't see the extension. Can you? Can you see the extension? So what's the format? File name dot extension. Can you see of that dot, the last part, later part? Dot and the extension. It's not visible, right? Since this is a PDF file, you should get like dot PDF. Am I correct?
Yes.
So where's the extension now? Right. So Windows 11, this operating system, right? There's an option to hide or unhide the extension, right? Sometimes it's like bit of confusing, right? So you can hide the extension if you want, right? You can see here, right? View, show, file name extension. See, there is an option. So let me open that. Right here, you got .pdf now. See, now extension is visible, right? If you want to hide that extension, so you can take off that one. So only file name is visible. So that's a feature of Windows operating system, right? And if you want to see the details, just right click the file, get the properties, right? These are file properties. These are additional things, right? I was talking about. Grade 8 right? So properties of the file. See, file name here. And the icon, it's here. See the application we use to open that file, it's Adobe Acrobat. If you want to change to some other software, you can change it from here. And the location where the file is saved, right? And the size of the file. So it's in megabytes, and even bytes they have given, right? So megabyte, 8.37. And the created date, file created date, modified date, and access today, right? Because you're to your class, right? I opened that one, right? 36 minutes ago. So last access today. And even you can make it hidden or read only, right? Where no modifications can be done if you make it read only, right? So these are the properties of the file. See, here also, the type of the file, it's .pdf. See here. So you can see the extension, right? Now don't say, from now onwards, don't say, I don't know about the extension. Now you should know perfectly. If you take any file, so let me show you another file. See, NIC analyze last week or before we discussed, right? So this is an Excel file. By looking at the icon, I can say it's a green color icon, right? So it's an Excel file, but extension is hidden. Let us open the, unhide the extension. Now here, see, .xlsx, right? If you want to see more details, go to right click and open the properties. See, everything now here, most of the things, even there are some tabs about the security, control the access of this file. So I can give you maybe read only access, write access, right? Modify access, or full control. You can even delete everything you can do, right? If I give you full control, right? So this is very important when we talk about the networking. Networking only because your data can be accessed by someone else. Networking, so this is single computer, right? This is not network, right? So if you make it network, others can access your file. So you need to bring some controls. So security tab, it's highly required, right? Especially in organizations, we mostly use this tab, security tab. So we can set the certain security features, right, to control the access. Maybe I can give you Sinukaputa full access and Litumna sort of modify. Sasara maybe read only, right? Mutulu write access, and there are some special permissions, right? So likewise, so there are lot of see, those are very advanced things, Butala. See, full control, traverse folder. Even I can control browsing the folders, right? List folders, read data, read attributes, create files, write data, create folders. So I can control. So if I say, if I take off this one, right? So it won't allow you to create the folder, right? So write attributes, delete, even I can control the delete, right? Using this, right? So here actually this I'm using sort of connected computer. That's why Office connected computer. So certain parameters are disabled for the user, right? Only admin can set the parameters. Currently, I have full control here, right? But I can set the right owner. You can change, right? Even I can audit. I can enable auditing. So who has done what, right? Those kind of thing, auditing, right? See, there are so many features you can control, but for the moment, you should be able to understand this general tab, the size of the file, extension, location, where it is saved, size, created, modified, access, and hidden and read-only things. That's more than enough for the moment, right? But I don't know whether you remember this or not. Security, this was discussed in grade 8 book. Utala, make a grade 8 වලදී අපි කතා කරනවා security ගැන, but I don't know whether you are aware of this or not. Anyway, so in grade 10 also you have certain chapters. We'll come into this security chapter later, right? Okay. Hope you got some idea now, right? So it's storing and retrieving. So how lengthy that task is, you can remember, you can, right? See, so simply I can say storing and retrieving, but there are so much of theory behind that, right? Computer is used to store large number of data and information. So someone can ask, how you save large number of data and information? Using the file, right? That's a relatively small unit, and we can retrieve. So that means we can open that file using the capable software, right? And retrieve them easily and quickly when needed. Okay. So now, is it clear to you all the features, right? Make them a So you should be able to explain these things: speed, accuracy, efficiency, versatility, and storing and retrieving. So you should be able to nicely explain with the examples, right? Right. Let's move into the classification of computers, right? Classification. So basically, we use computer to perform different tasks, varying from your day-to-day activities. Maybe it goes up to very complex type of researchers, right? As example, analyzing the chemistry of soil brought from moon, brought down from moon. So analyzing the complex, it's a complex, very complex scenario නේද පුතාලා. දැන් ඒ වගේ දෙයක් analyze කරනකොට you need to perform that activity within very short period of time because the chemistry will change, right? So then your conclusions will be wrong, right? You need to do it as fast as possible. So for that we need very high computing power, processing power, right? So we need different types of computers. But your day-to-day life, like maybe playing a game, maybe listening to music, maybe drafting a letter, right? Do some quick presentations. So those are very general things, right? So you don't need very high processing power, right? So it's varying from very small tasks to very complex tasks. So depending on the task you are performing, you need to choose, right? The suitable computer, right? So let's see what are the computers in general. What are the computers available, right? Ranges. So we can basically divide into two categories, like according to the size of a physical size of a computer, we can divide, and according to technology used. So that also possible, right? So basically, they have introduced these two main classification criteria. So first we'll see classification according to the physical size, right? There are very small computers and there are very big computers. See, there's an image, right? So it's a supercomputer. So you don't see monitors, only the system units you can see. It's a farm, we say it's a server farm, right? Like a farm එකක් server. It's a number of interconnected computers, right? So together it generates very high processing power. දැන් මෙතන පුතේ හදලා තියෙන්නේ කම්පියුටර් ගොඩාක් එකතු කරලා එක කම්පියුටරයක් හදලා, right? So with this technology we can make use. අර මං කිව්වේ ඉස්සෙල්ලා soil sample එකක් check කරනවා නම් හඳෙන් ගෙනාපු, so you need very high processing power, right? For that we can combine number of computers together and generate very high computing power, right? මේ වගේ දේවල් තව දේවල් වලට use කරනවා. So we'll stick into the book itself, right? These computers have higher computing power, right? That's what I'm talking about. Computing power means the task that can be completed within specific time period. They are large in size. අන්න මම කිව්වනේ දැන් soil එකක් check කරනවා නම් within specific time period කරන්න ඕන, right? So we can't take it for days or maybe years, right? Maybe you need to check that soil sample within maybe 2 minutes of time. So that's a requirement. So how can you get that kind of processing power? Huh? You can make supercomputers, right? So organizations like NASA. So what is NASA? මොකද්ද NASA කියන්නේ? National Aerospace Agency නේද? NASA එක කියන එක දන්නව නේද? ඔය rocket එහෙම යවන්නේ. Right? They do research, space, you know, that astrological researchers, like astronomy නේද? or මොනවද කියන්නේ? So space researchers ඒ වගේ දේවල් කරන organization එකක් නේ. Right? So they use supercomputers to process their, maybe they want to analyze the signals getting from the satellites, or maybe the spacecraft, right? They launch. So maybe images, maybe sounds, they need to process very quickly, right? So for that, they use supercomputers. So scientific research and engineering functions. So basically, people use supercomputers to perform scientific and engineering, complex mathematical problems, right? Complex solution problems, right? For example, the computers are used in institutes like NASA, large scale business and for military purposes, right? So we need to, so military purposes, right? Within maybe fraction of a second, we need to get the decision to launch missile, or maybe right, sort of things, right? So need to get very quick decisions. So you need very high computing power, right? For that, they use supercomputers. Those are unbelievably fast, right? Supercomputers, and they are very large in size. So remember this image, right? So that's the one classification. And mainframe computers. So mainframes, actually mainframes, it's comparatively smaller than the supercomputers, right? A very big organization. Let's say Microsoft, so they Google, actually they use supercomputers. Let's say some worldwide banks like HSBC. Those kind of people, actually basically they use mainframe computers. Maybe in hub operation. Hub operation is a very complex operation. Supercomputers, that much processing power is not required, but something lesser than the supercomputers, but more than the server computers. So in between, something they require. So they introduce something called mainframe computers, right? So they have relatively less physical size compared to the supercomputers, right? Computer power and are less expensive than the supercomputers. So those are comparatively less expensive, little bit cheaper, right? In mainframe computers, the number of users get connected to one computer using number of terminals and sharing, saving and retrieving data. So it's like this. Mainframe computer, right? Just imagine the system unit, and we have given, we have deployed some terminals across the users. users 50ක් ඉන්නවා කියලා. So they basically use dumb terminals. එයාලට තියෙන පුතේ keyboard එකයි screen එකයි විතරයි. Right? There are no system unit එකක් නැහැ. So basically you think like that. Right? All the computing power, the system unit එක තියෙන මේ mainframe එක ඇතුලේ කියලා හිතන්නකො අන්න ඒ වගේ. Right? So according to the power of the mainframe computer, you can connect number of terminals. Basically, putala istara banks use karao, right? So mainframe computer, they locate in the head office, right? And they connected all the terminals across the island, right? The branches, they connected through some cables, right? They deployed terminals for users, right? So they basically takes the advantage of mainframe computing power, right? There are no system units, just dumb terminals, right? You can just operate the program, that's all, right? So maybe hundreds of terminals can be connected to the mainframe computer, right? So it's like it's not basically like supercomputers, less size and the computer power, right? Large commercial institutes. So mainframe computers basically used in large commercial institutes like harbors, airports, right? What else? Maybe large banks, right? Right? mini computers. These are very popular. Maybe small organizations, right? And nowadays, especially banks, maybe supermarkets, right? Maybe educational institutes, right? Some manufacturing organizations. So mini computers, right? Uh, these are lower in physical size, right, compared to the first two, and less powerful and less expensive than mainframe computers, and also called common purpose computers. So that's why it's so popular, right? You need bit of higher computing power. දැන් අපේ සාමාන්‍ය computer එකට වඩා maybe if you take supermarket නේද bank or a school, right? අපිට තනි computer එකෙන් කරන්න බෑනේ පුතාලා. So you need bit of high computing power, right? Maybe organizations to operate ERP system. එක system එකක් දානවා අපි මුළු organization එකේම functions ටික check කරා functions ටික වැඩ කරවන්න. So you need bit of high powered computer. මේ පොඩි computer වල අපිට run කරන්න බෑ ඒක, right? So basically you need high powered computer. It's very expensive to get mainframe computer or supercomputer, right? So this is more than enough. So we can think of mini computers. So it's very portable. Maybe we can keep these mini computers within a room, right? Less powerful and less expensive than the mainframe computer. So those are affordable. අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? To think of mainframe computing, sometimes we can't afford that much. It's very expensive computer, right? Supercomputer, you can't think of the price of that, right? So that much expensive. So mini computers. They are easy to use. Few users get connected to the central computer and through few terminals and share the data and information. So mainframe computers, you can connect number of terminals, but if you take mini computers, only few terminals can connect, right? මේකේ processing power එක අඩුයි පුතාලා. If you මෙතන අපි කියනවා නම් අපිට terminals 1000ක් connect කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා, here maybe we can connect 50 or 100 terminals likewise. හරි? Few users get connected to the central computer through the few terminals, share data and information. Why we are connecting terminals? So to exchange the information, right? These computers used to medium scale institute, like such as banks, small banks, not globally connected banks. Small banks, so this is enough, right? This computing power is more than sufficient to perform their work, right? So mini computer designs, mini computer you can see, right? So a small scale computers. So microcomputers, those are our computers. Computer, right? Microcomputers. Those are very portable, right? Household. It's possible to use in house. Right? So all these computers required highly controlled environment. May computers environment, right? You need to provide make a godak heat generate karna. So you need very high cooling power එක. ඒ කියන්නේ air conditioner පුතාලා මේකේ තියෙන්නේ ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මේ පොළව යටින් තමයි air conditioner pump කරන්නේ. පොළව යටින්. Why? මොකද වෙන්නේ? රස්නේ කොහෙටද යන්නේ? උඩටද යටටද? රත් වෙනකොට. රත්තු වාතය කොහෙටද යන්නේ? උඩටද යටටද? ශබ්ද නැහැ කවුරු. රත් තුන දේවල් උඩට යන්නේ, right? So we need to pump air condition from the bottom, right? So those are the computer data centers are designed in such a way that it pumps air condition or cooling power from the bottom, right? So it absorbs the heat, and there are some exhaust fans, so it absorbs the heated air. And එමය තියෙන්නේ මේ උඩ තියෙනවා absorb කරනවා පුතේ යටින් AC pump කරනවා උඩින් heat එක absorb කරනවා, right? So it keeps on working. So it needs very high cooling power. Even mainframes require that kind of environment, right? Mini computers also, but microcomputers you can even use it in non-air conditioned environment, but it's not advisable, but still you can use, right? Mobile phones, some desktop computers, laptops. So without air conditions also you can use. Now those are optimized, right? But it's better if you can provide good environment. But these cannot, anyway, this cannot work without the optimum environment conditions, right? See how neatly arranged those things here, here, right? So those kind of things are not required. So it takes very less power, right? It's affordable power. You can get smaller in size, less speedy, and less expensive. Further, this consumes little electricity. It consumes little electricity. නැත්නම් සුපර් කම්පියුටරයක් ගෙනලා ගෙදර තියාගත්තොත් මාසයක් ඔන් කරලා තිබ්බොත් අපිට ගෙවන්න වෙයි බැංක් ලෝන් එකක් දාලා තමයි ඉලෙක්ට්‍රිසිටි බිල් එක ගෙවන්න වෙන්නේ, right? So මේ වගේ දේවල් පුතාලා අපිට even very affordable cost we can operate, right? Laptop, handheld, smartphones are some examples of this category, right? On a microcomputer. So you need to remember basically 4 categories, classifications according to physical size. So the largest one is supercomputers, and the next one mainframe, right? Mini computers and microcomputers, right? Hari, any questions? Any questions? Jasuni dua, Mutuli dua, Sasara dua, Tumya, Inukaputa, any questions? Physical size, dan Terunada.
Oh, sir.
Hari. Now, the second part, classification according to the technology, right? Basically, we can classify computers according to the technology they use, right? Like analog computers, digital computers, and hybrid computers. Hybrid means it's a combination of analog and digital, right? What do you mean by analog? What do you mean by analog? What do you mean by analog? Not Dr. Akin. So analog. Basically, we represent analog signal like this. So it's continuous, right? Right. So according to the time, right? So the signal goes like this. So you can determine values for each position. So if you take any position, there's a value, right? Continuous, it's continuous signal, right? So if you take digital signal, only 2 states, either 0 or 1. Here 0, that's 1. 0, 1. See? Only zeros and 1. Only 2 states. That's why we use digital signals for computing, right? So analog, right? What are the analog data? Tell me one analog data. So what are the analog signals? Speed. So at a given time, we can measure the speed. So car එකක් යනවා, right? අපි හිතමු මෙතන බිඳුව, right? So it's speeding like, so it's gradually speeding, right? So at every point we can say it goes 10 hours, 10 kilometers per hour, 20, 30. So his max speed is 40, let's say, right? So it's getting down, right? So speed, it varies. So at any given point, we can take a measurement. And just like speed, temperature, right? It's like 37.1, 37.2, 37.3, likewise. So at any given point, you can measure the temperature. So it's continuous signal. So it can go up, it can go down. So those are analog signals, right? So basically environment parameters like speed, pressure, temperature, right? So to capture the speed, you have speedometers, right? To capture the temperature, you have thermometer, right? Pressure. There are certain equipment, right? So you might have seen road lamp, right? According to the darkness, automatically it the bulbs are blowing, it can automatically it lights up. So there are sensors, right? So it captures the darkness of the environment, right? When it comes morning, it will automatically turn off, right? It will turn on when the environment gets darker. Okay? But we can't say it's like one on and off. We can't say like that. So according to the darkness, right? So when it triggers the certain threshold, so it will activate, right? So those are analog type computers, right? Then una balanda onnang kutala, right? So you need to take your body temperature, right? So it monitors. So you have analog type computer, and the digital thermometer it converts analog signal. Temperature it converts to the number, right? So meteorological machines are examples for analog computers. Speedometers, road lamps with sensors, right? Meteorological so those are analog, actually the technology they use. So they convert analog signals, right? So digital computers. So basically these are our day-to-day life, right? So we use computers for our day-to-day working. So those are digital computers, right? So we can input maybe using keyboard, mouse. So all those signals captures like digital signals. It's not analog signals, right? But if you talk about ECG machine, right? It converts your maybe heart pulses to digital form. So it's a combination of analog and digital combination, right? It analyzes your analog signal and it converts to the digital. So those are called hybrid computers, right? ECG machine is one example, right? They use in hospitals, check the function of the heart, right? It's an example of hybrid computer. The machine identifies the function of the heartbeat, which is an analog signal. So you can understand it's an analog signal. So as I told you, like temperature, thermometer, right? It captures your analog signal and converts into the digital signal. Those are called embedded computers, right? Then it's converted into digital signal, and these converted signals are printed by the machine. And they convert computer can process karna, right? So those kind of things. So speedometer, it's a analog computer, right? So digital computer, you can name so much of digital computers because we use digital computers for our day-to-day life. And hybrid computers, basically it captures analog signal and converts into the digital form, right? Those are hybrid computers. Remember ECG machine. So maybe a thermometer, digital thermometer, right? අන්න ඒ වගේ දේවල් මතක තියාගන්න. Right. So any questions so far? දැනටමත් නිකන් මොකද්ද වගේද? තිනක පුතා? Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
මොතලේ දුව? රතනේ දුව? කතාර දුව? No idea? Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Right. Nitumya? So I think today we have discussed so many things, right? So let's revise. So basically what's a computer? It's an electronic device, data processing device, right? So there are certain features, right? You need to remember: speed, accuracy, efficiency, versatility, and the storing capability, storing and retrieving capabilities. Those are features of computer, basic features, right? There are plenty of features, but right, these are very important. This very important features are given here, right? For speed, so you should be able to explain the speed, accuracy, efficiency, versatility, what is versatility, and what storing and retrieving, right? So you should be able to explain. And the classification, then comes the classification. So we can basically classify computers according to its physical size and according to the technology, right? Basically, if you say physical size, we can find 4 types of computers. Supercomputers, that's the largest one, takes so much of processing power, right? It can generate high processing power, very expensive, right? And it's very rare. Sometimes in Sri Lanka, you can't find out supercomputer, right? You can't, right? Basically, why? Because these computers are used for very complex research, right? Maybe mathematical problems, to solve mathematical problems, right? Engineering functions, to design maybe aircraft designing, likewise. Those are very complex scenarios, right? Maybe robotic designs, maybe vehicle designs, maybe you want to generate new 3D simulations of a spacecraft. So they use supercomputers, right, to analyze the data, maybe complex data scenarios like analyzing the soil samples, maybe oil refinery analyze, or oil maybe analyzing the meteorological data like satellite images processing, so those kind of things, right? So they use supercomputers, right? Mainframe computers, those are comparatively smaller than supercomputers, takes less power, and it's available. Maybe in Sri Lanka also you can find mainframe computers, but supercomputer I haven't heard, right? Those are very rare, but mainframes, it's available, right? So big organizations, large commercial organizations like airports, harbors, maybe banks, so they use mainframe computers, right? So it takes some power, but comparatively less than the supercomputers, right? Large scale businesses. So mini computers still low in price, right? Compared to the first two, less powerful, less expensive than the mainframe computers, right? Those are a bit of very common commonly you can find mini computers. Like a server client, server computer terminology comes with the mini computers, right? ECT use, few users get connected to the central computer, right? Few terminals share the data and information. These computers are used in medium scale institute like banks, right? Medium scale, right? And microcomputers, these are well known to all of us, right? For our day-to-day work use, we get micro type computers, right? Even your smartphone is a microcomputer, your laptop it's a microcomputer, your desktop it's a microcomputer, right? It consumes very less electricity compared to the first three, right? Very less expensive, portable, right? You can take from anywhere, not the desktop computer, right? Even desktop you can carry, right? Those are portable, right? And the processing power is very less compared to the first three, but you can use it for your day-to-day working, right? And we learn about the technology. According to technology, also we can divide the computers into basically three categories. Analog computers, right? Basically, it processes the analog signal. What do you mean by analog? That's continuous signal. So it can capture the analog signals, basically environment variables, to measure the environment variables like speed, pressure, temperature, right? And meteorological machines, right? And they use analog computers. Digital computers, those are nothing but our general purpose computers, daily use. So all the computing devices you see today use digital signals, right? Ones and zeros, right? Hybrid computers. So combining both analog and digital computers, they made a hybrid computer. ECG machine, so it captures your heartbeat and converts into it generates some physical printout. So doctors can diagnose you any heart related problems, right? Using the ECG machine. So it's a analog machine converted into the analog signal converted into a digital signal and take the it process the data, right? Even your digital thermometer is a hybrid computer, right? So I think it's enough for today, right? It's like you got so many things. So we'll start this function of a computer system. It's a little bit complex, right? You should be able to understand. You have to recollect your previous knowledge, input devices, processing and output, and they have added the data flow and the communication flow, right? So how data flows between these components, right? And how the command flows, so instructions flow, right? So I will explain this in next class, right? So Nimbi also coming, right? So basically, we'll skip the next class, right? So I will give you a holiday. 11, next week it's a holiday for you all, right? And we'll start from 18th onwards, right? 18th we have class. හරිද පුතාලා? 11 නෑ 18 තමයි ඊළඟ class එක තියෙන්නේ, right? So we'll take a 1 week break for New Year, right? For New Year celebration, right? එහෙනම් පුතාලා, let's wind up for today, right? කට්ටිය ඉන්නව නේද? So පුතාලා, let's wind up for today, right? එහෙනම් හැමෝටම අයබෝවන්, good night.
I want, sir. Thank you. Good night.
Good night පුතාලා.
Good night, sir.
Good night පුතා.